noted. And so the agenda item number 2 is Federal Reserve Fund, not federal, Reserve Fund transfers. There are no transfers this evening. So moving right along, the next agenda item is to approve the minutes. Now, I know we didn't get to them at the last meeting. Do you guys have the final minutes? Because I didn't.
I do.
You do, okay. Oh, they're right, okay, I do have them. I couldn't find them. So. So we have first minutes from 9/18. Did everybody have a chance to look at them?
I read them before last meeting. I didn't have any comments on them.
Right, I think they're all up to date from what I see.
Okay. So if we want to just go through them, we have up until, we have 9/18, 10/30, 1/16, 2/13, and we don't have in our packet the 3/13 yet, and Linda's going to send the 3/20 in tonight's by next Monday.
Yeah.
So do I have a motion for the 9/18 minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Jamie, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Larry, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? No? And then, do I have a motion for the 10:30 minutes?
I'll make the motion that we accept the 10:30 minutes.
Larry, okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Janet? All in favor?
Aye.
I'll
Aye.
have to recuse myself, I was not at that meeting.
Okay. Okay, and no nays. Then, do I have a motion for the 1/16 minutes?
I'll make the motion on the 1/16 minutes to
Okay,
approve.
Janet?
Second.
Seconded by Larry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? No, approved. And then the 2/13 minutes, do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve 2/13 minutes.
Janet
I'll second.
and Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any nays? No? All right, so we're caught up on minutes. So we have 5 minutes before our scheduled appointments, and I had put out agenda item 4 just to see if there was any general feedback or general questions that anybody had on what we'd gone over last week, or the process or anything.
Well, I did, but on the water, again, I don't really know if they really, I was confused about how they supposedly capitalized fire hydrants, because I don't really think that it was capitalized from what I saw, so, but I had this discussion with Laura about that, you know, so, you know, there's an issue about some of the fire hydrants that are in the town, and I guess Laura believes that they should be assets for the town of Raleigh, but the town itself has a different opinion about them, and if they should be capitalized or not, so.
How were they in the budget? I don't remember now. In their tentative budget?
If I-
They were not capitalizing them? Or?
Well, some of them were, but it looks like they, to me, you know, it looks like they put the whole cost in that particular year. Because a fire hydrant, I don't know what fire hydrants go for, but I don't think, if it was capitalized over 5 years, it would be worth, you know, if it was 15,000 is what I think it's worth, I don't think the fire hydrants are worth 75,000 apiece.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks to me like they put them all in, you know, in the year, and they didn't capitalize them, you know.
So they expense it the year that they're
I believe
purchased
so.
rather than
That's the way it looks to me.
spread out over 5 years.
Are we talking about the capital part of the budget?
Yeah.
What they're trying to do is they're proposing to replace 4 hydrants a year.
Okay, yeah.
And what the goal is to get all of the same brand and maker. In the end, because what they're doing is they're replacing the oldest ones first. Some of those are left-hand open, some are right-hand open.
So what's the value of those fire hydrants though?
I really don't know what the cost is to buy a fire hydrant,
Okay.
but basically what happens is it's something that they maintain, but the town pays rent for them.
Mm-hmm.
So they have income coming from the town
Mm-hmm.
to, on a yearly basis.
Okay.
For the number of fire hydrants. So what they're trying to do is put that capital plan, it's a 5-year capital plan.
Right.
And what they've said, they're gonna replace 4 hydrants a year
4 hydrants, okay.
in that capital plan.
All right.
4 each year to bring them up to.
At 15,000 a year.
Is it
Okay.
15,000 a year?
Right.
So you
divide
saw
that
on
by
that
4.
back page how it's
Yeah.
broken down.
So if you
Okay.
divide that by 4, that'll give you the cost that
Okay.
they're gonna charge from us.
But there was also, Laura also mentioned that this is a side issue about some of the assets that there's a disagreement about what's considered an asset to Rowley, to the town, and what isn't, and, in terms of some of the stuff that the water department has.
Okay, I mean, I would assume all of their material things would be assets. They're not necessarily quote-unquote the town of Rowley, but they certainly are the water department, which is.
Well, that's what I meant.
the town of
I
Rowley.
meant the water department,
All of that stuff should be
Yeah.
asset.
Mhm.
Now, some of it may have been written off all these years. Particularly some of the gate bells, because some of those are original, which go back to 1948.
Mhm.
So I'm sure a long time ago, that stuff was written off.
Okay.
But how to hang it on the books, I really don't know.
How was it left in your discussion with Laura then? They're expensing it and, or was it resolved or was it still a question?
Well, I'm not sure. I think, from what Mary's telling me, it looks like maybe they are capitalized in the part that from his explanation.
It
now.
is,
Oh.
it's
You
on
know,
the
from,
5-year
uh,
capital
yeah.
plan.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So we're good?
What then would be in the budget, the line item for the hydrants itself, separate from the water department, that we approved for 35,000?
That's the rental. That's income to them, not necessarily
Okay.
expense.
So that on the town meeting warrant, there is a page that, and when we finalize everything, it's called for informational purposes, which shows out the revenue.
Mhm.
And this is an example of last year. So you see hydrant rentals there.
Okay,
So that's where that number is along with the other revenue. So then it's just not water rates that contribute to the revenue. They have permits. They do they're doing work on some of the new subdivisions where they charge the developer to lay the water mains. So that's the revenue breakout. And the hydrants is listed here. So that's part of overall revenue on a sort of a cash basis
okay.
layout.
Then one other thing before we get to the scheduled appointments, Dave Peterson is here. I had raised a couple of questions on the personnel results of the research by HRS, and I just wondered if anybody had any questions while he's here. I don't want you to have to stay for the whole meeting.
I just wondered, did
So I have that right there. This is
if
just
Debbie's gonna.
a worksheet.
For the record, I'm Dave Peterson, I represent the Personnel Board. She called me last night requesting, a little more information, because last week when I was in, we talked about a total figure that the non-union raises were gonna cost and be added onto the budget by department, each department. So what this, we're giving you tonight, it's really, it's a worksheet. It's a draft, so that there may be some changes coming. Most of them will be minor, but it's a sheet that kind of shows you all those non-union raises by individual, not by name, but by job title, so that if you look down through, it starts with the assistant town clerk all the way, and it basically shows what their current hourly rate is, or salary rate in the first column, and what that means on an annual basis for their salary or wages. And then there's a proposed column is the new hourly rate, or the new salary, depending on how they're paid. The next one shows how many hours a week that they are scheduled for. In other words, a lot of our people are part-time, various numbers of hours, so it gives you an indication of who's working 40 hours, who's working 35. A lot of the minor positions are 4 or 5 hours, 8 hours. And then the final column is everything's based on, weeks per year, basically 52 weeks. And then the net increase at the final column is what that means to the total of the budget when you figure out the bottom line of how much money we need. So there's a couple of blanks. For instance, like I just mentioned to Karen, like if you look at cable peg director and cable production technician on the first one, it's all blank because they're paid out of the Comcast revenue and the Verizon revenue that the town gets each year. So we haven't dealt with them yet. We can deal with that. Doesn't have to go before town meeting, so we can deal with that separately at a later time. At this point, he's just trying to get everything done.
Okay.
And the bottom line is, like I told you last week on page 2, the total for the non-union employees, including the water department, is $102,077.94. We take out the water department raises, which is $16,609, because they pay for those out of the enterprise fund. That leaves the general budget responsible for $85,469.59. And this is just, like I say, a general worksheet for you to peruse and get an understanding of how the money's being divided up. And like I said, it's not across the board. It's each individual position was looked at and assessed, and that's took an awful lot of work. But so now what you're going to do is you're dealing with, I don't know what budget you get tonight, but let's say the fire chief's budget. You're going to see his salary, which shows here, is going to be incorporated into that budget based on what you see on the sheet here. And every department that comes in that has non-union positions you can pick them off the sheet here and see.
Yep.
And that should be reflected in that budget. So that's where we stand. We're revising it. Debbie and I have been meeting almost every day, revising and looking at, and we're getting a few people coming in, and so we're trying to get it as accurate as we can, so that later on we get as much of the correct money in the budget, so that we don't have to make changes later on to budgets after the town meeting or the warrant is printed. So if you got any questions, I'm more than happy to.
Had the selectmen already approved all the salary increases, or is that still work in progress for you too?
The Board of Selectmen, Mr. Peterson met with the Board of Selectmen maybe 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember here, and sort of unveiled this plan, actually at one meeting, and then came back at another meeting and met again and discussed this, and the Board of Selectmen authorized the implementation of the compensation schedule for non-union employees effective July 1, which is basically authorized under the personnel bylaw, and to have a total sum earmarked in the budget of not to exceed of $92,000, and that would be earmarked for non-union. We do have to address the bargaining units and bargain in good faith, so that will be addressed in the selectmen's budget of setting aside some funds to address the results of contract negotiations that are going on now into the summertime, and then they're talking about a fall town meeting where there could be some type of adjustment made for that.
Okay.
And we're working down. The $92,000 was a little more than we expect. We're working it down in some budgets that we even have tonight. The implementation has resulted in no net effect budget increase.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions on?
I'd just like to point out, Dave mentioned the cable,
Yep.
RMC, Valley Community Media.
Yep.
That money, although it's considered income, is actually tagged and earmarked to be spent only on the PEG access portions of the operation. So it's not something that we have as income where we put it in the general budget and spend it somewhere. It has to be spent specifically on cable things that go on. So it's not something we can count as normal income and add it to our total budget.
Right.
So it's what we really refer to as off budget,
Okay.
is how it works.
Okay.
So
Can I ask a question? This might seem
Sure.
kind of stupid or silly, but I guess I just was wondering why, like, the water department, like, you know, we have budgets and we're looking at them, but we really don't have anything to do with the electrical, you know, the Valley Light.
Mhm.
What's the distinction between that?
State law.
State law, could you
State law.
explain more? Like,
It's
So it
the
gets-
way it works.
what?
It's considered on the town's books as an enterprise fund, but
Yeah.
it's really a private enterprise fund. When you look at the light department,
Mhm.
it is a town department,
Yeah,
but it's really, the bookkeeping and the budgets are set up by state law, and the state law treats it as a private operation.
okay. I wonder why they have a different set, why it's different.
Also,
from-
Bob, they are exempt under the town's personnel bylaw, so
Right.
this compensation schedule would not apply to them, and neither do the town's personnel policies. So it's clear on the town's bylaw that there's an
Mhm.
exemption.
If you look at chapter 164, it's about this thick.
Okay.
That is what governs the light department.
So certainly, they have public meetings, you
Mhm.
can go down and look at their budgets. You
Mhm.
won't see it on town meeting, in the town meeting warrant, but you'll see one article, a standard article every year, that authorizes the Raleigh Municipal Light Plant to sell electricity in the town of Raleigh, and that's exclusive, so you can't have National Grid in competing, like the cable industry, where you can have competition with FiOS and Comcast and RCN or whatever, but they do, they have they follow all the public records.
But there are
law,
certain
including
things in
law.
the state law, in chapter 164, that give the town the authority,
Mhm.
as an example, all of the funds that come into the light fund, all the bill collections and things,
Okay.
goes through the town treasurer by state law. Okay, through the accountant's office by state law. All the bills have to be approved the same way. All of the funds that we have, depreciation fund, things like that, are handled by the town treasurer by state law.
Okay.
Okay, so there's kind of a, if you look at it as a public entity that's semi-private, is basically the way they describe it. So in that article that Debbie was talking about, is also prescribed by state law. The state says you should put this in your town meeting warrant.
Mhm.
It allows the light department to spend any excess funds that it collects during the year. But it has to be spent on their construction account. So
Okay.
to increase the physical structure of the plant. Wire and poles and things like that. So,
Well, I figured you would know the answer to that.
Yes, it did. Okay. Any other questions, anybody? Okay. All right, so we are ready to move to our scheduled appointments.
Good evening. Just kind of go through each sheet, and if you got any questions, just fire away. Start with wages and salaries. Fire chief salary is $80,592, as Dave reflected in his comments previously. Firefighter wages, or the full-time guys, the captains, is 140. Let me get this right. 141,186, which includes their overtime and their regular salary. The call fire, and they are a bargaining unit, so like Debbie talked, they'll have to go into negotiations for any wages increases. The call firefighters is $81,200. Their wages are reflected in the personnel plan, but the increase in that line isn't there because it's set at a certain amount, so I can't anticipate how many fires I'm going to have during the course of the year. So there's more than what I really need, but if I have a couple of good fires, I'd be looking for more money. So there's enough money in there to take care of the hourly increases for the call guys. For a subtotal of $302,978. Our expenses are level funded as per directed by the selectmen, and $119,993. Station and equipment lease, and that's this rent for the fire station, as well as what equipment is still owned by the fire association that the town entered into a lease agreement with the association, and that's $20,000. And that brings it up to $139,993 for expenses, and for a total budget of $442,971. That's wages and expenses. On page 2, anybody got questions on page 1, I guess? On page 2, it breaks it down to what the hourly rate for the 2 full-time guys are and their annual salary with longevity and stipends. And the call wages, again, it's the same. I asked for $3,672 more overtime this year for the full-time guys to have them attend more of our monthly training. Right now, and it's been like this for quite a few years, they haven't been going to training because the overtime budget's been enough to cover them responding to certain hours before and after our work hours, and one of them to be able to respond during the weekends because I got to get the truck on the road. But I've got a dwindling workforce, as it were, having a hard time recruiting people, and it's more important that they show up at the training, monthly training, to help transfer some of their knowledge to the younger guys in the department. And where I do have some flexibility in my current overtime budget for big training that we do once a year, I need to get them to start showing up for all the training to help with I got a lot of young guys with not that a lot of experience, so I'm just trying to get the experience across to everybody. So that's why there was an increase in the overtime for that. Any questions on page 2?
Where was the overtime on
on
page 1? Where was-
On page 1, it's included in the the firefighter wage line. It's all together. And it's broken down on page 2.
Call fire, so 31,000 of that is, 33,672 is in
Overtime.
that 81,200?
No, it's in the 141,186. The firefighter wages, not the call wages. On page 1.
186 is part of that?
On page 1, 141, 186, the
Okay.
firefighter wages.
All right.
The overtime's included in that
It's
line.
in there, okay.
Yeah. Okay, on page 3, no, page 3. That's page 4. On page 3, I break down my expenses to where it all goes to during the course of the year. I have apparatus maintenance, which is my biggest chunk to keep the trucks running, is $28,883. Computer software, and that's the operating system that we use for data management, is the support is $1,883. Dues and publications, that's magazines and professional dues that I'm involved in for state, federal, and local associations, is $3,120. The fire alarm maintenance, which is the wire that the town has, goes through some of the town businesses in town as well as this building. That's to maintain the fire alarm. So if that red box on the front goes off, that's fire prevention is $3,359, and that's for use of the Essex County District 15 safe trailer, as well as when the fall festival, they have an account, I buy the hats for the kids and little fire prevention stuff that we use during the course of the year. Firefighter equipment is $18,031, and that would include small power tools, maintenance on them, have to repair them, replace blades, maintenance on the thermal imagers, the gas detectors that we have. It maintains all that stuff. Forest fire, basically all I'm using with that is to print the burning permits during the course of the year, and maybe incidental forestry hose replacement. Fuel is $11,383, and that's all apparatus. It's gasoline and diesel. The fire hose is $2,383. That would be to repair a hose that has a leak in it or replace a piece of hose. Medical supplies would be, actually it's more for maintaining the defibrillator, buying pads for that. We get most of our supplies from Action, so I don't spend anywhere near what I used to. Cell phones and hotspot, it's $3,643, and that's for all the cell phones for the trucks, the emergency management trailer, and I have an internet hotspot for that trailer, so that pays for all that. There's, well, Mark, Ronnie, and myself have one. We have one in the station, and the 3 engines in the ladder truck have a cell phone, and there's 2 in the trailer, so that takes care of all them. Office supplies is $3,743. Radio repair is $3,133, and that's for the 2-way radios that we use to communicate back and forth. SCBA is the tanks that we wear on our backs, maintain the air compressor, do flow testing, and fit testing of the face mask for all the firefighters. Small equipment, again, that's the pumps. We have some portable pumps, generators that need to be maintained, so that line takes care of that. Station telephones is the phone system in the building. Training is $8,643, and that's to allow people to go to classes. If I bring a vendor in to do a major training, that comes out of that line. Uniforms for the 3 full-time guys is $2,700. That's $900 a piece, I believe it breaks down to. Utilities is $13,898, and that's for the trash, the natural gas for the building, the electricity, rental for the water cooler, the copying machine, that all comes out of that. And the red base is the 3311 line. That we still have the phone system. A lot of the central receiving stations, when they have a fire alarm come in, they'll call the dispatch center on that line, because you can't use 911 because they may not be in the area. And it also pays for the electricity for the radio building at the top of Prospect Hill, and it has a repeater for the fire department, the police department, and highway, and I think the light department's got their repeater up there now too. So I pay for the electricity on that, out of that line, and that's where all my expenses end up going.
I do have one question.
Sure.
The personal safety equipment, does that come out of the firefighter equipment or the uniforms? Firefighter equipment?
The uniforms is just like my station uniform.
Okay.
It's just clothes that the 3 of us wear during the course of the day. It has nothing to do with safety equipment or turnout gear or anything. Turnout gear will end up going underneath fire equipment, firefighting equipment.
Okay, thank
And
you.
that's be maintenance. Everybody's got fairly new gear now, so we should be okay
Thank you.
on that.
I might point out also on that, the station type equipment, the station type clothing,
Mhm.
has to be fire retardant.
Right.
So everything you wear, the shirts, the pants, the boots, all that stuff, so it is a little bit more expensive
Sure
than
it is.
normal uniforms.
You put firefighting on it, it doesn't matter what it is, you add 10% to the cost of it. And I guess, any questions on any of that?
Yeah.
Now, what I have asked for, and I'll briefly go over the Tahoe, although that's going to be pushed off until the fall. I don't know if you want to mention it or not, but I'll just briefly go over it. The Tahoe is a 2000. It's 13 years old. Originally was going to replace it in 2010 with the pickup truck that we got. However, I was able to keep the Tahoe because it was supposed to go to the Board of Health, and he ended up getting one of the cruisers instead. The Board of Selectmen told me to keep it at the time. During the first couple of months that we had the truck, the pickup truck, I was using it as the chief's vehicle, and it really doesn't work well as a chief's vehicle. It's too big. It's good for pulling trailers, which is what I got it for moving people around and hose and stuff, but as a command vehicle, it really doesn't work, and I was fortunate to keep the Tahoe. And I'm hoping that I can continue to keep a vehicle like that. It is getting long in the tooth, as it were, starting to rust in a lot of different places. And it served the department well for 13 years, but it's showing its age. But again, that's going to be in the fall, according to the selectmen's meeting. So it's there. So that's all we can talk about it. What I really want to do is talk about the radios. We thought we were okay with the narrow banding, and what that means is the radio frequencies we were on were over a certain size spectrum. And because everybody's got cell phones and pagers and all this stuff, there's less and less available frequency range for everything to be used. So the FCC mandated back in 15 years ago, so be in the late 90s, that everybody has to narrow band or narrow their bandwidth to a smaller spectrum so that they would free up some stuff. And since 2000, we were doing that. We were buying radios that were narrow band capable. Unfortunately, the first bunch of radios that we purchased that were narrow band capable in reality aren't narrow band capable. So some of our portable radios that we had are basically useless right now, and we have to replace them. And we have 5 portable radios that we have to replace. And we also have radios at the police station and the fire station, which, without getting too technical because it's somewhat confusing, talk from each station to the repeater at the top of Prospect Hill. They're basically mobile radios that you have in a truck. They won't narrow band, and well, they do narrow band, but when you do, you can't hear anything out of them. They're scratchy, they're very weak, and it's a vital piece of radio equipment. We had to scavenge a radio from MEMA that was issued to the town for the police station so that we can talk back and forth. And we took one of the trucks to put in the fire station so we can communicate. We have to replace those radios. The radio that MEMA gave us belongs to the state, it's not ours. If they call for it back, then I have to take it out. So we're looking at replacing those 2 radios. And
So right now, the police can't talk to the fire
no,
department?
we're talking now.
Technically.
We've got a patch in place
Right.
so that we can, but we can't continue the way we're at.
Right.
We're borrowing from other other things that really need those radios. So the total price for the two of those radios is $1,180. The 5 portable radios that we're going to replace will cost us, excuse me, $4,530. And we also have to buy 3 chargers for the trucks for those radios because the chargers aren't compatible with the newer radios.
Okay.
So that's another $1,311. So that's what I'm looking for capital expense this year. If you take the Tahoe out of the mix, it's less than $7,000.
And the selectmen will be looking at articles and things, next week, after we finish the budget, so those wouldn't be part of the operating budget anyway, so we're gonna be looking at possibly, what we can do with the special town meeting
Okay.
this spring too.
So
Where's the, I'm just looking for the 20,000, where is that on the station equipment and lease?
that's part of my, it's not in the regular, but that's the lease that they have with the fire association. That's to rent the forestry pay for the rental on the forestry truck that they're paying, and $750 a month for the station rent.
Okay.
And I think it was $100 for the rest of it. It all equaled to $20,000 a year. That's just kind of tacked on to my expenses. That's this whole separate thing from the expense line.
How do these, if you buy new portable radios, how does that tie back to the radio repair line and your expenses? Would that expense go down?
No,
No, they're
because
separate?
it's still, if there's problems, have them come in to work on it. I may not use all of it, but it's hard to say. If somebody drops a radio or a pager that has to get fixed, they have to go out, and that's what covers that. That's, I mean, in a perfect world, I won't have any problems, but I always have. Somebody's dropping a pager, going through a snow blower, or dropping it in the water, or a radio in the water, and they have to go out and get either replaced or fixed. So that would stay consistent.
I'm not trying to put you on the, I don't know, because it probably doesn't matter material anyway, but shouldn't some of these items be capitalized, like computer software and stuff? And
It's an annual expense. It's our Firehouse software. Now, it's only one software. It's the maintenance agreement for it, and that's what our database for the fire department runs on. It's all run reports, our fire inspections, and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's part of my expenses. It's not a capital. I'm not buying new. It's not a new software. It's just the maintenance agreement. So product support and stuff like that.
Okay.
So there's lots of information for us to look at.
Yeah, the rest of it on the back is kind of capital for the coming future. Engine 1, we're on our last year. It's a 5-year bond this year coming up, and they'll be paid off. We have 2 trucks that are 80s vintage. One is an open cab seat, which jump seats, which means that they ride in the back exposed. And industry standards, it's not allowed anymore. The ladder truck it was used when we bought it. It was a stopgap to get by because it would fit in the building. Both of them, one's close to 30 years old. The other one's about 28 years old. They need to be replaced. Ideally, the next truck to get replaced would have been the ladder truck. However, with the situation with the station, we can't find another truck to fit in there, so engine 4, the oldest pumper, would be the next one that I would be looking at replacing. That would be in fiscal year 15. So we have that coming up, and the other thing that we have coming up is I'd like to start looking at hiring some more firefighters. We're getting older, the 3 full-time guys. We're not getting younger. I started coming up with a plan this year. However, it's a little in-depth to try to get the best bang for the buck, and I was nowhere versed in it at this point to do a presentation. So next year, I would probably be bringing it to the selectmen and to the finance committee to see if we can do something. We will apply for a grant to try to help defray some of the costs, but it's on the horizon, I'll tell you that. And so, we're looking at the apparatus, 2 trucks to replace, and to keep on our 20-year plan, which is take a truck out of service after 20 years, or every 5 years we'll be buying a fire truck. Emergency management, we can talk about that. That's been level funded for $2,000. That basically pays for supplies, paper, incidentals to carry on with emergency management. There's not a lot there, only $2,100 expense line. It's just enough to buy stuff, the little things. I've been getting a lot of grants through MEMA and the Homeland Security Council. That's what's built up emergency management in town. We've been very successful in getting stuff through that. Not a lot at once, but we've got some assets now that we never had, we've never been able to afford before. The one thing that I would like to do at some point is to look at getting an emergency generator for the center school. And we'd have to have someone that's got some electrical expertise to kind of go through it to see if the system down there is capable of a generator, and if not, what we would need to do to upgrade it. And the reason for that is, as you know, the Pine Grove School doesn't have a generator. It was kind of designated as a shelter for town, but if there's no power, there's no utility, and you can't do anything down there. Over time, it's been realized that it really wouldn't make a good shelter for adults. It'd be good for little kids, because they're all the toilets.
Right.
So we would be looking at going into a regional shelter, which is what the big push is right now for that, through emergency management circles. What we would be able to do with the generator at the center school was to open up the council on aging as like a warming area, or until we can get them into a shelter. And it would also give the Board of Health the ability to keep their refrigerators running all the time, so that their medications that are in the refrigerators wouldn't get spoiled. So what really brought all this about was back in 2010 when we had the 18-hour power outage. There is a need for it. It's just trying to get it into the priority, the pecking order in the budget. But we need to sit down and find out what needs to be done to the building to make it capable. I haven't a guess, but I believe there's somebody that can help us with that. Is that right, Bob?
Excuse me. Chief, one of the things that you, on the regional shelters, now you have to be careful when you bring somebody into a shelter, correct?
Yes.
Because you have to, well, at upgrades, you would have to, if you have in a regional shelter, you have food,
Right.
heat, water, you have that. Now, on a shelter like us, you can only keep them in there less than 24 hours.
Right. What it would be for is just mainly to, until we can get them into a shelter, get them out of the cold, so to speak. And it would be a very short term. It'd mainly be for more of people that don't have transportation. So we could use the Council on Aging vans to pick them up, bring them there, and then get them into a shelter once it's open.
And that's kind of what we did at one of the events that we had. We used the Council on Aging.
Yes. Yeah, we've got it lined up with the Council on Aging. I've got firefighters that are trained to operate it. They're certified, so that we can use it any time of the day. We can use both of their vans to move people around. And every time we have a snowstorm and the flooding and all that, they're part of the emergency management team to coordinate the use of the van. We've only used it once, and that was back in Mother's Day flood of 2006,
Right.
where we brought everybody, all the selectmen around town, to show them the bridges washed out and stuff, and that worked out well. But we haven't really had to evacuate anybody so far. But I'd rather try to be ahead of the curve a little bit, and at least have a place where we can move people until we can get them into a shelter. And it would be a short term. They wouldn't be there for very long. We'll never be able to afford to put a generator at Pine Grove School. In 2000, it was $50,000. I can only imagine what it is now.
Well, and plus the other thing is that you would not be able to, and again, you have to, when you bring somebody into a shelter,
You'd have to have,
food, water,
which
you have to.
we don't have any of that,
We don't have any of that.
or staff to run the place.
So it is, you have to go to a regional.
It'd be more of a liability to the town.
Correct.
Right.
So where you've been successful in securing some EMA grants, is that also a possibility that could follow? Is that something you're
Unfortunately,
offering?
it's all based on population,
I see.
and we're on the lower end.
Right, okay.
What we normally get every year between the two of them is a little bit over $7,000 a year, and so there's only limited stuff that you can get for $7,000. Unfortunately, a generator isn't
No,
one
no,
of them,
no, okay.
and you can't bank it.
Right,
You got to
okay.
spend it every year. So if something pops up where we could do that, I would certainly know about it, but
Right.
the
Not
grants
really.
have been drying up. They haven't
Sure.
been getting more lucrative, let's put it that way. And the rest of it is just kind of a background of where I'd like to move forward. It's on that narrative on the back there. It's just kind of what's going down the road. It's not what's going on this year, but just kind of, that's my presentation.
Okay.
Short and
Thank you.
sweet, I guess.
Any other questions while he's here? Anybody? No?
No?
So, I think we'll let everybody review these at your leisure at home, and then we'll vote on this probably next week. And meanwhile, if anybody comes up with any additional questions that we have for Chief Broderick, how do we want to handle it? Do we want to funnel them through you, Janet?
Sure.
Or
She
would that be?
can
okay.
get a hold of them.
Okay.
I just have one
Okay.
question. I was just wondering about, like, the hours. I see that you and the 2 firefighters have hours of 8 to 4.
8 to 4, Monday to Friday.
So is there would it be a little bit more efficient if you could stagger the hours a little bit? Is it just
It
better
doesn't.
to have 8 to 4,
It
three
doesn't
people?
matter because one person in the station, but to stagger it an hour or something, it doesn't improve anything because you can't go out by yourself. You got to wait for someone else to come back in.
Okay.
So it doesn't. There's
I know
no
you got
real.
small numbers, so.
Yeah, it's not a real
Mhm.
cost effective. I mean, if I had 6 or 7 people, then I could stagger them that way, and that would make sense. But with one person, and if one of us is off,
Yeah.
which lately has been happening a lot, and there's only 2 of us, then the point is moot. So we all have 5 weeks vacation and 6 personal days. And it's a good point of the year that we're not 3 of us.
You ever have less than 2?
We never go down. If I go less than 2, I try getting one of the call guys
Oh.
to cover, and that's usually if someone's got an emergency and we've got some other things going on, then we'll backfill with call guys. But we know we go about below 2. We really shouldn't go below 3, but it's the nature of the beast. So we make it work. But yeah, we never want to go to 1.
How would you, one fire
You can get them there, you can operate them. Believe me, I'm gonna.
Yeah, but something goes wrong, you're in trouble.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we
Thank
have
you.
the emergency management budget. I don't know if that's something before you leave.
Yeah,
we
it's-
did go over it.
Separate budget.
It's a separate budget. The stipend went up $1,000. The expenses stayed the same.
And the second was an agreement with the Board of
Right.
Selectmen on taking in consideration that, the chief has worked hundreds of hours, not just during a storm event, but going to FEMA and MEMA meetings.
Doing paperwork.
And filing for all the information that they require to build up to declare it a state of emergency. So the selectmen felt that was warranted.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. Okay, so the fire department will review next week and vote on the emergency management. Do people feel comfortable with that one?
For tonight, to
Yeah,
vote?
to vote tonight.
Would you like a motion?
Sure.
I'll make a motion that we approve the emergency management.
Budget
For a
of
total of $6,099.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Larry? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? No. Okay. So that one is approved. Then, so next in my packet is the town moderator. This is a very large budget. $100.
For showing up one night. Possibly 2.
Thank you.
So actually, this one doesn't have it populated, but it should be
Please write in $100.
100, yeah.
Joan had signed it, and she thought I had typed it in there, and it was rushed.
Okay. Any deliberation needed on this one? Do I have a motion that we approve $100 for the town moderator?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Janet, do I have a second?
Second.
Larry? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No. So moved. Next is the treasurer collector. Everybody have that one? So, this one, the wages for the treasurer collector are going up, and I assume that's the personnel board
The
recommendation.
position's elected, she's not bound under the personnel bylaw, but she
Oh.
voluntarily placed herself on in the step system at a recommended pay grade. And she assigned herself the step 3 on that. And she made a presentation to the selectmen on Monday night, and she discussed, I'm sorry, I just need this table to work on the book. She discussed that she had provided, and this since she's taken over a year ago, a lot of different efficiencies to automate things. She has a lockbox now. She's doing a lot of online billing and collections, and when in the lockbox, is a sort of a subscription where you might see the email your tax bill to Medford or Woburn or wherever it is. It's actually processed and all done that way. So it's much more efficient than manually running to the post office and having somebody in the office typing. So she's reduced the administrative assistant hours. So the overall budget has gone down.
2.6.
Well, the salaries have gone down 2.6, and the expenses have gone down 1.9. She's also eliminated hours with the administrative assistant wages. Let's see, from FY13 into FY14, from 29,350 to 17,578. So 40%, 40.1% decrease on that line for wages. She's done a lot in the office too.
Yeah.
Just, as Debbie said, just streamline and be more efficient.
I believe when I met with her, she said too, in the reduction of hours, that person is part-time enough that they also aren't on the health care benefits,
Correct.
maybe. So there's another savings
Yeah,
on another
overall
line
for the
there.
Mhm.
So but that position though is actually more than what's requested in the, on here. Unless I'm looking at something wrong. Okay, so there's a stipend, okay,
Yes,
$1,000 stipend too. What's the stipend for?
Mass
Yes,
collector, treasurer certification as a collector. The town had accepted the state law back in 2003. There is a little note there on the wage breakout, so that if the treasurer collector earns her certification through this association, which has training from Department of Revenue officials at it, then automatically they would be entitled to that stipend by virtue of accepting the state law.
So, any other questions on this budget? Do people want
No.
time to look it over?
I don't need any time.
Don't need any time? So So back to the treasurer collector salary, sorry, I was looking at the wrong line before. So the personnel recommendation was 68,329.
That's the step one of the pay grade.
Oh.
That was a
okay.
recommendation, but as an elected official, she's not really bound by that, she insists to the town meeting. But the selectmen, didn't have any objection to it because her overall budget was going
Was
down
going down,
in this
yeah.
case. And she's sort of, assigned herself and is part of that system.
But Debbie, I didn't think that these were step one. Are you saying all these salaries on here are step one in here? I thought these are like middle range for
No,
what they.
No, as Dave Peterson described, we made the compensation schedule affordable, so we had to take what the consultant did, bring it down to 5 steps, add in 2 steps that were, that are even lower than step 1. For the most part, all employees are placed on step 1. There was maybe 1 or 2 exceptions.
Madam Chairman, just make a note that when Mr. Peterson started to speak on behalf of the Personnel Board,
Yep.
so it wasn't a quorum, I stepped out of the room. So that was at 7:32, so just,
Oh, okay,
Okay.
so that there wasn't a quorum of
Wasn't
the
a quorum.
personnel
I
board.
stepped out of
Yes,
the
I
room.
did notice that you left when he
wasn't because.
began to speak.
I want to hear what the FinCom, but everyone
Okay.
said Mr. Peterson said.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. So, I'm good with this. I think overall she's done a great job bringing the expenses down, and it's a well-run and efficient department. So, do I have a motion to approve the proposed expense of $181,557 for the
Aye.
treasure collector?
I make the motion that we approve the treasurer's collector's budget.
Okay, Larry. And do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No. Okay. All right. Next is the Conservation Commission. So in this, the Concom agents' salaries going up to $51,565. And expenses are staying even. Any questions on any of that?
I don't have any.
Peter, are you,
Yeah, I'm all
you're
set.
upset on, okay, sorry. So, do I have a motion to approve the $53,187 for the Conservation Commission?
I'll make the motion.
Janet,
Second.
second by Larry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No. Approved. Okay. Planning Board. So, in this this, the planner's salary is increasing again per the personnel board recommendation. The planner consultant is going down slightly. Merrimack Valley Planning Commission is $18.90, and that's what we're just assessed, right? We have no,
That's
I
right.
saw a letter about that, so
That's
we
right.
have no choice.
That's the assessment from the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission,
Yeah,
which I'm the representative for the town for the commission.
okay. What do we get for that?
Got quite a lot.
Do we? Okay.
You know, the commission has helped us, you know, many times, and helps. It's one of those agencies within the Merrimack Valley that works very quietly. It looks at the roads, it looks at shellfish. It's helped us try to set up a boundary line between Ipswich and, personally, you know, for us, the town, between Ipswich and Raleigh. Yeah, it's always there. I mean, we've used it quite a bit in the past couple of years.
Okay.
And,
And traffic counts, when we have to
Traffic counts.
refile for the quiet zone at the train station, they've been very amenable, call them up and say, I need the data to file with the Federal Railway Administration on that, to maintain the quiet zone at that crossing in that neighborhood. So they're just very helpful.
Mapping.
Multi-hazard mitigation plans that we have to have filed, that allows the town to get grants
Okay.
and things. They're just a wealth of knowledge and resource, not just on planning, but other initiatives, environmental initiatives and brownfields. So they deal not just with the planning, they deal with this office, the fire chief and emergency management, the health agent, so they,
It's a-
conservation commission, and it's really, you know, we're really lucky to be in this association.
And for a small amount of money, we get a big bang for the buck.
Yeah.
Shouldn't Form 1, that line for Merrimack Valley Planning, instead of 1890, then be the 1936? Am I missing something?
Right, you know, they level funded that,
Where do you?
yes, it should be, $1,936 or $37.
I'm
Where?
sorry.
Oh, that one that we're just,
Yeah.
1936.
That's
Okay.
I think with Bob's authorization as the town's representative, it's really a town assessment, not a planning board, assessment so much.
Yeah, it's really-
And we could amend that now and just make that manually in the budget book here.
Okay.
Does anyone have a calculator to come up with?
$47.
So we're gonna up the total by 47?
3 makes it 39,324.
So I just have a general question on, like, for the salaries. In talking to Dave, my understanding was, in general, we're trying to migrate people to be up toward the average salary that came out of the HRS report.
On what,
No.
on the planning?
No, in
Across the
general,
board
that we
to
want to.
everybody.
Is that?
Repeat, yeah, I know.
My understanding was that the goal was to try to get people to the average, or that was the original goal.
Yes.
But that was too expensive. So, okay, so you're just trying to get people, give everybody a boost. Okay, I'm just looking at my notes.
Try to
here.
get wages in line
Yeah,
with other
okay.
towns, for retention purposes.
Yeah,
Was it based on how many years of service, between 3 and 5 you're trying to do, or what?
No, we looked at all the towns, you know, in our comparable to our size.
Yeah, I know, but this proposed, this personnel study, is this the kind of, that's what I was asking?
Well, that's a
again, it's like-
worksheet that,
Yeah.
that I've been working on. For example, with the planner, this is on step 1 of pay grade 9. So this gets that employee at that first step, effective July 1.
Yeah, but I don't think these aren't all first steps, for
What-
sure.
Last week,
I
we
mean,
talked about that,
principal-
and they had said that they didn't look at people's years of service in a position, that everyone was at step 1, so that they would have the 5 steps to migrate through in the future, since they compressed it from 10 to 5.
We start at step 1 and then.
I know, but what I'm saying, what I'm getting at, these aren't step 1 set pays here, you know.
No,
these
it's
aren't,
this,
you know.
No.
I can make
One
a
that
copy.
doesn't-
Oh, that, but I was looking at this,
No,
you know.
that's just a cost out sheet
Yeah.
that we're working on.
But these
Mhm.
increases are based on the step 1s, correct?
Yeah, the step 1.
They tie back to step 1, they
That's right.
increase them out.
Because the way the step program was before, you know, you hire somebody in, and, you know, they may be stuck there for years, and you hire somebody else in, and they're coming in at a higher rate than the person's been there for years. So we needed to really straighten out
Mhm.
the whole system. So I think, you know, what transpired, I think what you have in your hands, it's a good working wage sheet down. And people will know where they're going. And I guess, you know, that, I would say
It's
that.
step 1, but it's at a certain grade.
Mhm.
It's more than one grade, so step 1 in grade 1 would look different than step 1 in grade 10.
Yeah, I know that's how, you know, how it works with civil service, but, most of the people that work in front of town probably been here at least 10 years or so, most, would you say? So you
Yeah.
wanna, you know,
Well, it varies.
paying people, yeah, it varies, but, you know, so. Most of the people are getting paid probably somewhere like around step 5 maybe, if they've been here for 10 years or so, you know.
Well, they're in the,
Step 5 or,
they're at the first step.
For the most part, everybody's been placed on step 1, which we do acknowledge is still below what the average is out of the survey sample from the package you had. But the consultant said, you know, she's had clients that, you know, they try to do the whole thing, they can't, it lands up in a file cabinet and there's no change. So she recommended that we try to implement it either, you know, in small steps over
Yeah.
time, and the personnel board will look at this in maybe a couple of years and see if it needs some tweaking or adjustment. But even for now, the purpose was to try to have all the employees on a new pay grade system, because the old one wasn't working.
And looking at it, you try to place somebody, you know, in a higher pay grade, you know, it becomes subjective. Better to start at, you know, step 1 and work your way through. Otherwise, I think you're muddying the waters.
so have you figured out like how much this is gonna cost the town for FY14? Is it like?
Yeah, that's all been presented.
Okay.
That's on this sheet, so that Debbie handed out at the beginning.
Oh, okay. Oh, I
So,
saw
and
that.
it's
I
a
wasn't
draft,
sure that-
so it could
Yeah, it
change
was
slightly, but it
108,000.
would.
Yeah, that's 102,
Okay.
and then take out the water.
Well, we're just basically talking at this point is non-union,
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
non-bargaining
exactly,
union
right,
people.
Yeah, because you're not including the school, I mean, I was even thinking about the school, because the school budget's going up 170,000 or something like that, so,
That's right.
That's across the board.
yeah.
That's,
I know, but it's
That's
still,
over there.
you still have to have the money to include, you know,
Well,
whatever,
well, that's
everything should be.
that's the assessment from
Yeah.
Triton,
Yeah.
you know, to the town. The, escapes the 59.7% that we send to Triton. I think that's the number.
Mhm.
I think it was 59.9 Bob this year.
Was it 59.9?
Yeah. So you might as well round it down to 60.
So, I'm sorry, Debbie, did you say a total for this line if we adjust to 1936?
With that $47, it comes out to a total of 39,000.
I have 324.
324?
Yeah.
Right.
324, okay.
So expenses, total expenses went up to 11,426.
Thank you. All All right, any other questions on this one, or is people ready to vote? Do I have a motion to approve the $39,324 for the planning board?
I'll make that motion.
Jamie,
I'll second.
Janet, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Nope. So approved. All right. So zoning board of appeals, the administrative assistant wages going up slightly.
It's a bargaining unit position,
Oh.
so it will be on the on this compensation schedule. There's an
Oh.
extra payroll day in the fiscal year. So,
Oh,
and it
okay.
falls on a Monday, and she works on on Monday, I think through Wednesday. I'm not sure exactly, it's 10-hour position.
Okay,
6/30/2014 is on Monday.
okay. And then expenses are level funded at 1680. Do I have a motion to, or any questions? Peter, you're looking at it still?
No, I'm looking, no.
No. Oh, okay, yeah. Do I have a motion to approve the $10,085 for the zoning board of appeals?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Janet? Do I have a
Second it.
Second, Larry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Nope. All right. Inspection department. So the salaries are going up by 2,300. The wages are level and expenses are level.
For the building inspector, the electrical, and the plumbing and gas, and under the salaries line, and then the wages are for the alternate building, electrical, and plumbing and gas, as well as the administrative assistant. The administrative assistant is in the union. The rest are all non-union positions.
I noticed in the expenses, the fiscal 12 was 6,500 and 13 appropriated to 5,000. Are they level with the 5,000 or?
My guess is in fiscal 12, there was a transfer, and so this is the actual amount spent. We may have had an interdepartmental transfer to cover mileage or something like that. That fluctuates based on gas prices and things, but that always seems to be something at the end that Ken Ward has a hard time trying to gauge where he's gonna stand on that. If they have a lot of inspections, they get reimbursed for mileage. At the
Okay,
IRS mileage rate. Usually that's absorbs a great part of that expense line.
okay.
So we fine on level funding it, or should it have been increased to, because the past two, 11 and 12 were higher than what was appropriated in 13?
Yeah, he has submitted it. I think we could just wait and see again how it goes and do some transfers and then probably look at it in a broader situation for next fiscal year.
Okay.
Any other questions on this budget? No. Do I have a motion to approve the $70,093 for the inspection department?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Janet, a second.
I'll second it.
Larry? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay. So next is the Harbor Master Department. So there's a slight increase in the salary for the Harbor Master. Assistant wages are level. Pump out boat wages level funded, and expenses and town landing expenses are level.
How does that, the harbor master, on this sheet, says current salary, and then it shows 0 net increase, and then there's a line underneath it. Should those have,
Yeah, let me look at that a second. I was trying to do some calculations to back in, to set him at an hourly rate, because our compensation schedule is tied to a 40-hour week. So I had to look back and estimate approximately how many hours does he work per year, and to assign him at the pay grade 9 at a rate of $24.28. I had come up with approximately 4.75 hours a week. And if you look at this, the second line where I have the pay grade 9 next to it, that would be the additional amount. Because I didn't really, he works, he's on salary, I don't really know, it's probably 4 months of the year at the most that he works, and so hypothetically, that's how I came up with that, to assign him and put him on the comp schedule, as sort of was my directive, at pay grade 9 at $24.28. So it does show an increase based on 4.75 hours for 52 weeks, of an increase of $419.
so those two lines go together, really?
And he was able to absorb the increases to the assistant harbor masters and the pump out boat operators within his budget, wage budget.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the $17,790 for the Harbor Master Department?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Jamie. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay,
you
Larry.
can have it.
I gave it to you, Larry. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No? Alright. So, the Shellfish Constable is next. What's that?
I said, I don't understand this one compared to the sheet.
It
So.
says 100% increase.
Oh, it's a
Oh,
flat
yeah.
adjustment.
Expenses, it says 100% increase.
Yeah, I think that's wrong. That's 11.
Yeah, he must have had a mistake and did it, didn't. I didn't do the spreadsheet for him, I had just sent it in to him, he came back and filled it out. The constable, Shellfish Constable wages, this is a position appointed by the Board of Selectmen, there is a job description for it. And so this also had to be placed and assigned a pay grade. So he is, this was another one I had to do, kind of back in, at a pay grade 5. And because he's paid under 2 forms, out of the general budget, out of a stipend, and additionally out of the revolving fund. So when we get to the town meeting articles, you'll see that's the annual revolving fund. So that the Personnel Board felt that the $254 annual salary that he gets really should be increased to a flat $400, and $17.53 hours is what he will charge on an hourly rate out of the revolving fund to do the extra clam duties he has to do. I really, and maybe Bob Murray could explain it. I know he's.
Well, basically, particularly during the summertime
busy.
clamming season, they're doing patrols
Yeah.
to make sure everybody is clamming where they're supposed to be clamming, and also that they're licensed, have a license rally, particularly the commercials. They want to make sure that nobody's sneaking across the line and coming out of a different town to try to do the clams, so. And then, as far as the expense go, they do have a boat, so we can just take care of that, service it, fuel it, that type of thing, so.
So one thing, Jack Grunstrom came to me about for the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. That's when we had the problem with the the where the border was, and between Ipswich and Raleigh. So Jack
Yeah.
came to me, and then we went to the Merrimack Valley, and they mapped it out. So we want to keep the Ipswich clammers in Ipswich and the Raleigh clammers in Raleigh. So. And where the flats are. There's a lot to it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot more. I learned quite a bit just from talking to
And
Jack.
he basically has to monitor weather because of the closings. If we get a certain amount of rain.
Right.
If it's like a half inch, it's like 2 days. If it's over an inch or 2 inches, then it's for a week. And so he has to maintain looking and making sure nobody's doing clamming during that time frame.
Sort of policing
also.
it, yeah.
So he's watching the landing, make sure there's no empty trailers back down there and that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
there is quite a bit of work to it.
Because the runoff from the rivers into the bay.
right. All right, so do I have a motion to approve the $963 for the Shellfish Constable?
Do you want this one?
I'll take it. I'll take it. You wanna
Okay,
take the
Larry?
second?
Second?
I'll take the second.
Jan? Okay, all in
The
favor?
other side of the table could play.
Aye. So, approved. All right. Next, we have Shellfish Commissioners.
Those are an elected position. The commissioners themselves are elected position.
What's the difference in the duties?
The commissioner is more of an oversee. The constable does the patrolling. The commissioners meet on.
Well, can you have the same person do both, or, it has to be,
Not necessarily, I mean, they can be
it could be,
both. As far as I know, I mean, don't think there's anything against them, one being the same, commissioner and constable.
One is appointed, the constable is appointed by the Board of Selectmen, reports to the Board of Selectmen. The commissioners are elected and they develop more policy.
Policy,
You know.
and they kind of concentrate their work on the propagation
Mhm.
side of the operation, putting down the netting and that type of thing, collecting the seeds and doing things like that. Making policy, setting rules, opening and closing flats. If there's one that needs to be closed to be protected, let the clams grow a little more, it's the commission that actually makes that decision.
And we also have the shellfish bylaw, or so if it needed amended or changing or something, they would be working on making modifications to that, and things like that.
It's more of an advisory board, basically.
do they work closely together?
Yes,
And
yes, they do.
Okay, so this
Commercial
is,
claimants do we have now, Bob, do you know?
I really don't know off the top of my head, Bob. There is quite a few, though, it's surprising, particularly with the economy being what it's been in the past.
Mhm.
A lot of the people were making their living down there.
Mhm.
The aquaculture project also came from the commissioners, and that has helped the flats tremendously. Because the people that running the aquaculture are actually netting their flats and they're collecting seed. And that seed that the clam grows and it puts out more seed and it actually takes root in the town flats. Other than this, that's not to their flats alone, it spreads over everywhere. So there's been a big comeback as far as the clams are concerned. There were flats down there that were actually barren and now have clams on them. So it's worked out very well.
If you want to know more about clams, there's a fellow over in Ipswich, Joe Carlin. And Joe Carlin, sometimes he'll be at the different libraries.
Mhm.
He gave a talk one time, and I was privy to it, a half hour, 45 minutes, talking about Ipswich clams. And, well, we're basically the Ipswich clam, too, because of where we are.
You know where
And-
the Ipswich clams come from, Bob?
Hmm?
You know where the Ipswich clams come from?
Raleigh.
Raleigh.
But it's a fascinating
Uh-huh.
business, aquaculture.
Yep.
But Joe Carlin, and sometimes you'll see Joe on TV, on History Channel. He works for the Food and Drug Administration. But he can talk about, I never thought anybody could talk for half an hour. He can go more than a half hour. It's very interesting,
Yeah.
the whole aquaculture.
He is on that, even on food itself, Bob. I don't know if you've heard of his food programs, but it's really, it's amazing. He's very passionate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is very passionate. There's also a lector at Our Lady of Hope.
There's what?
He's a lecturer at Our Lady of Hope, so I
Oh.
was in there one time. It looks familiar.
Uh-huh. That's funny. So, all right, do I have a motion to approve the $2,665 for the Shellfish Commissioners?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, the other side of the table's getting involved.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Janet. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any nays? No. Okay. All right. The schools. So we've already talked about Triton at different meetings, so that's all set. The Whittier vocational assessment has gone down.
It's probably based on the number of students attending.
130, yeah, 136, 836. Yeah. Okay. Any questions on this budget? No? All right, do I have a motion to approve the $8,287,698 for the schools?
I'll make the motion to approve the
Okay.
school budget.
Janet?
I'll second it.
Larry, seconding. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. Next is streetlights. And it looks like it's going down slightly in expense, 33,000.
We have been, it's been the policy for the last year, maybe year and a half or so. When possible, we're replacing streetlights with LEDs,
Mhm.
which basically cuts the expense by about 7%. The capital cost is more money, but in the long run, they're gonna last a lot longer than the present, the one we've been using before. So it'll pay in the long run. The cost will go down on the capital side and also on the energy side. So what this represents is the energy side.
What is the life expectancy of an LED streetlight?
About 20 years, Bob.
20 years.
And with the high pressure, high intensity discharge fixtures that we used before, you're looking at about 5 years for a lamp.
Wow, so that's considerable.
It's gonna be a good project. I mean, it's gonna take a while to do it because of the capital costs up front. But once it's done, it'll be very good.
But there's even a huge difference in the amount of light it produces.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
much,
and
much
and it's
brighter.
a different light now, because we used to have mercury, and that wasn't very efficient. Then we went to what they call high-pressure sodium, which is the orangey colored light,
Mhm.
which is very efficient as far as watts per lumen. And now we're going back to the LEDs, which are about the same watt per lumen, but much less energy consumption.
But it's
Is
very
that like the
noticeable
one-
when you see one.
Yes, it is.
Is that the blue color?
It's kind of a whitish,
White.
it's a brighter white than the mercury
Hmm.
was. It's more of a white color. It
No,
would
I
have
had like
bluish
some
tint to it.
cars have the
The
LEDs.
mercury basically would have the bluish tint.
If you want to see one, go to the corner of Farnham and Weathersfield.
Okay.
And, what we've been trying to do
Very
for a lot of them
noticeable.
is put them on the intersections
Mhm.
where you really need light at the intersection, so. And if the replacement comes along and it fits in, we really don't want to try to mix it in between, because you try to get the orange and the white, so it makes it a little crazy. So the intersections are a priority at this point, and we need to replace it right there, replace it with the LED.
Do I have a motion to approve the 33,000 for the streetlights?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Jamie. Do I have a second?
Second.
I said it first.
Yeah.
Janet.
Yeah.
All in favor?
I defer.
Aye. Any nays? Peter, did you have a question?
No, well, I was just thinking, what, did you say that the, before the light department pays for some of that, is that what's in here, the part that they're paying? Because,
Pays for, okay, I understand what you're trying to say, Peter.
there's some of the lights, I mean, is this street light, this represents all the street lighting for the whole town of Raleigh?
Yes. That's, no, it's only the energy cost, the kilowatt hours. State law, I go back to 164 again, that's divided for the light department. State law says you cannot sell energy for less than you pay for it. But the light department pays for it, wholesale
Okay.
rate. So, that's how it has to be done.
So they have to charge us for it.
Right.
Okay.
We have no choice. We can't give it away. Now, you gotta admire the people that created that law back in the 1890s. Knowing that if they gave it to the municipal, that at some point in time, the municipal would want all their power for free. And that's why you get this, and I said before, this semi-quasi public-private enterprise.
Okay.
Because it would be the ratepayer that would have to make up the difference. If the town government decided, well, we don't want to pay for our electricity, so we'll just charge it all to the ratepayers.
Yep.
Okay.
And you can't do that by state law. We tried it once. When we first put the lights on the common,
Yeah.
the department wanted to donate that to the town. They filed a DPU report. DPU sent a letter back and says you cannot do that.
Oh,
You violated the requirements of the state law. So we have to charge for the lights on, the energy for the lights on the common.
okay.
Okay. So next is the Council on Aging. So on this, the COA director salary was increasing. And the wages
I don't know how many
increasing
of you folks
slightly.
deal with the council on aging. Unfortunately, I'm getting to that point.
Come on over, Bob.
But I would just like to comment that for that salary, we are getting a great operation down there. It's unbelievable. I mean, for the total wages that's on this worksheet. The stuff that they do down there for the elderly in this town is just amazing.
They have the equivalent of over 100 volunteers. And it's not including their staff, which do a lot of volunteer work and contribute to stuff on the side, so.
I can't say enough about Mary Ellen. She's just tremendous.
Well, I've seen their calendar, it's always very active and varied. They always have interesting things.
In the Council on Aging Department, the director and the outreach worker are the non-union positions. There is an alternate van driver who's paid out of the revolving fund that doesn't show up on the budget. That's a non-union position, but there are 2 union positions there. The activities director and the administrative assistant.
So any questions on this budget? Does anybody have any concerns about it?
I don't have a concern, I do have a question. What, on the last page, kitchen faucet and speaker system, what is the donation account?
The Friends of the Council,
Uh-huh.
the Friends are a separate group,
Oh, I see.
and they are capable by state law to accept donations.
Right.
So they do a lot of different things, such as replacing the faucet in the kitchen sink. They had a problem with the faucet, so the Friends gave them the money
That's
to be able
great.
to replace it. Oh, it's super.
That's
It's really
great.
good, yeah.
Great.
So do I have a motion that we approve the $95,437 for the Council on Aging?
I'll make that motion.
Jamie? Do you
I'll
want-
second it.
Seconded, Larry, since you're the
I was hoping
liaison
Peter
there.
would, but that's all right.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Nope. All right. Veterans. So benefits are going up 12,000. Is this what we're assessed, or is this, I think you've explained this to us
The
before.
benefits, no, the assessment is the Eastern Essex District line.
Okay,
There is gonna be no change in fiscal 14 on that. That town is part of that Eastern Essex Veteran Services District,
okay.
and sort of a regionalized approach to providing the veterans benefits. The benefits are projected to go up. I had a discussion with the director, and we have very active utilization out of this account. The town is required under state law to pay benefits for eligible veterans who reside in the town of Rowley. So I think we have veterans from, I think, going back to World War II, or maybe it's Korea, all the way up to present day that are qualifying, and
Is it health benefits? Is that?
there's all varying degrees, to offset the cost of health insurance, operational budgets, some get fuel costs. There's a formula that, he really is almost like a social worker in the regard of being able to take everything and find out what's qualifying for coverage. And, I'm not sure if we're gonna make it this year, even on the 30,000, I may have to do a transfer, interdepartmental transfer at the end of the fiscal year. He's saying it could be even more than 42,000, and part of it, the State Department of Veteran Services has expanded some of the coverages of what veterans are qualifying for now.
You have a lot more veterans coming back now, being discharged. And so it's now about the wars winding down.
Mhm.
So, there's job, they're looking for jobs, education benefits, all this comes into play,
Housing,
health benefits,
mhm.
housing. As far as I'm concerned, can't do enough for them.
And he said that almost every town in the district is just, the costs are
Yeah.
going up.
And Terry he works really hard, Terry Hart. You can go over there and you see him, for his operation, I'm just amazed what he does for,
Yeah.
the Essex County.
And is this the one where we pay this year, or we pay in fiscal year 14 up to 42,000, but then we get reimbursed by the state? He
Yes,
submits
Terry will
the
file
next
for a
year.
reimbursement of 75% of the cost.
Okay.
It goes into the general fund. We probably won't get it to at least a year to 18
Right.
months out.
Yeah, okay.
When the state
Okay.
issues the reimbursements.
Okay.
So that's the good note on that, is we do get most of the money back.
Okay. So, do I have a motion that we approve the 68,000 for the Veterans Department?
I'll make the motion.
Larry?
You had it last time.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Janet? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No. Okay. Last one. Insurance.
These are more or less fixed costs. When we do our little pie charts, we say fixed costs, just like the school has fixed costs, so does the town.
So the Essex Regional Retirement, that's just assessed to us, we don't.
Correct.
It's based on the number of employees who,
That's right, so there's an assessment to the town. The town has to pay a portion of retiree pension, and the employee has to pay the, a portion as well.
yeah.
And that's their assessment. We do work, there's always an option that we do fully budget for it, if we promptly pay the entire bill by 30 days into the fiscal year, that will be reduced. Once again, that's a saving, it gets turned back into the town.
So, and then the blanket insurance, that's for all town buildings and operations.
That's right. It's property casualty, general liability, law enforcement liability, workers' compensation. Police and fire have separate. They don't get workers' compensation. We have to have police and fire accident policy with a rider on that for call firefighters as well. So they're all covered under separate policies. And once again, that line is something that I have to budget for what I am projected the increases to be. But there are also we have ability to reduce the premiums through prompt payment, dividends. We're in MIA, the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association, which is part of the MMA, so that's a non-profit insurance agency, so the money comes back to the town in various dividends or rewards for training, and they offer free training throughout the course of the year for different things, so we work hard to reduce that. But that's what I have to budget, what I think contractually the town will be required to pay. Covers deductibles as well. So if we have a police cruiser that's in an accident and there's a deductible in it was an automobile accident that was not the cause of another party, and it's our accident, there's a deductible that has to be paid. The department heads don't necessarily have money in their lines for deductibles, so it's either $500 or $1,000 depending on the vehicle.
Is the unemployment number for fiscal year 12 accurate?
We believe for fiscal year 12,
Yeah.
that's what we
Really?
had actually spent. Yes, because
That's
we
good.
probably had a partial, we may have had it roll over from one fiscal year to the next, and we just had a small claim. We're in the reimbursable unit, we don't pay into the pool, so we really have to pay on a claim-by-claim basis. We really don't have any layoffs in the town in general. Once in a while there is a restructuring, and there was in fiscal 13 a restructuring in the planning department where there was a position that we didn't fund. So there will be a claim that will be reflected at the end of this fiscal year. So fiscal 13, that number will be significantly less. We'll have paid a lot out this year, but I don't expect anything in 14.
Good.
Any other questions on this one?
No.
Do I have a motion to approve the $1,262,197 for the insurance?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Jamie, do I have a second?
Second.
Larry? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? All right, so we're done with agenda item 7. Agenda item 8 is just a standard, any updates from anybody from meetings or anything? Okay.
I met with the health department last week, went over all their line items, and everything looked fine to me, so I don't
Okay.
see any problem with that.
Okay.
And I think we'll be meeting tomorrow on the highway department. So
Okay,
I guess we'll get everything straightened out there.
okay,
I met with the library,
okay.
and they have, they're gonna be presenting a budget to the selectmen, requesting additional increase to staff.
Dropped it off the second, so I want to make sure everybody leaves tonight with that, so you have a chance to look at that.
Yeah. How many people are they requesting?
There's 2 positions now that are 28 hours, or no, they're 20 hours and they want them to go up to 28. And then I believe there's one like lower level position
The technician.
that they want to increase as well. And this would allow the staff to, or the building to have 3 staff on while it's opened.
Okay.
And because it's a library, they're mandated by the state, so when their total budget increases, that automatically increases their, the amount that they have to spend on material. They have to spend 16% of their budget on material. So as they increase in staff and that salary increases, it automatically increases their budget line item as well.
Wow.
So I
There's
asked her
rules.
about if there were any items in her budget that could come out of the library. Like, I had asked about the lawn mowing, things like that, if that could become like part of the town rather than the budget
Mhm.
of the library to try to reduce the materials.
Oh, yeah, they're overall.
But it is done by the town every 2 weeks, but they have gardens around the library. That was one of the wishes of the woman that
Right.
donated it.
Yeah.
Their landscaper has suggested in order to maintain it to the level that it should be maintained, that the mowing needs to take place weekly. So the town pays for 1 week and the library pays for the other. So it doesn't sound like there's really anything that can come out of the library budget to try to, I think everything's out that can be out. But I was just trying to see if there were ways to
Yeah. Save.
Save, because-
Close the whole thing down.
they are part of the consortium.
Yeah.
So really, anyone who wants material, if the library doesn't have it, they have access to
Right.
loan it from another place.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So before we adjourn, we had spoken about meeting next week 2 times, Tuesday and Wednesday. Is that
Is that
still?
possible
Yeah.
for you? And I also want to know get some idea, because I think it'll be busy. The selectmen still, because of this whole process, has been slowed down with revising budget numbers. The police chief, the library, I don't know if you want the health agent to come in, he can certainly come in. Of course, we have the selectmen's budget, and I'm just going over the list now. From just the general fund, I think other than that, the rest should be pretty standard. Would you want to have one night with those department heads and then another night for the water? I know the water is a budget that, may take a lot of time. I think there were still some more, further discussion needed to happen. I've been working on some revisions on the water budget this week that need to be done. We need to make some adjustments. And the selectmen are gonna be meeting on the water budget on Monday night.
Okay.
I can certainly get a draft email to you of what the selectmen are gonna see on
Mhm.
anything
Mhm.
on Monday night, as soon as I get it. But I don't know, I know we had a late night last week, if it's
Yeah.
better to just set the water aside unless there's a scheduling problem with one of the department heads. And then the following week, we're gonna have to work on articles, have this FinCom start reviewing articles.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
what your
think,
preference is of what night you would like, the water in maybe on Tuesday and then the rest on Wednesday.
either or, but I think it's better to split them up.
Okay, that's what,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
So whatever you can,
We'll
whatever
work
can be
with the
scheduled,
department
yeah.
heads. Okay,
Okay,
all right.
sounds good. So, do I have a motion that we adjourn? It is 9:12. 12.
I'll
We're
make
doing
the
better than
motion.
last week.
I know.
Okay, Janet, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Jamie?
James.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved.